Well, today emerged the moment many of us have been waiting for with bated breath, the question of whether their Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, would be attending the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III. And the results are in, ladies and gentlemen. His Royal Highness, the Duke, will be attending, but Her Royal Highness, the Duchess, won't be. And I expect the Duchess will get a lot of undue stick for all sorts of reasons, but I believe this is ultimately cheap. It's the Duke who must take responsibility. He's the member of the royal family. He's the one who was born into the family that has reigned over us now for generations. And anything that is a problem with that must be his responsibility rather than the Duchess's. That she was a successful American actress. She married into this very distinguished family. She found that it wasn't quite what she expected. Her husband has written a misery memoir that has said how awful it is being a member of the royal family and having lots of money and cars and outriders and all these terrible things that must be such a burden for him. She's had to put up with all that. She's provided for the royal family two further members, a prince and a princess, in the line of succession. She's done her duty, effectively, and it's His Royal Highness who seems to be the one who modelled himself on Mona Lot, which is not necessarily to be encouraged. But I'm going to throw this over to my panel, because back with me is the former editor of The Sun, and The Sun always has a view on royal stories, always did, Mr. Kelvin MacKenzie and the illustrious Jerry Hayes. Go on, Kelvin, you have a go on this subject.
I think it's a wise decision. I think there's a real sense of angst against both of them, and they've solved it. He has to turn up. He has to turn up to his dad's coronation. I mean, really, had he done that, it would have been wholly unacceptable and would have created, I think, even bigger problems than there are. Look, every family has a problem. Every family has a problem, and the problems always exist when a marriage takes place. So somebody that you quite liked, your own son, marries somebody who has their own views and you disapprove of them. And when it's done in a public way like this, that is too much for the nation to bear. They've got enough of their own problems. They think that this lady is causing unnecessary trouble for somebody that they quite liked in the first place. And so this is the perfect solution.
Well, he has to come, because he has to swear to be the liege man of the king. That's the whole point of a coronation. It's the whole point of a coronation.
It's his dad.
It's the king.
Yes, I know, but it's his dad. That's the most important thing.
No, it's the king that's most important.
No, it's not. It's his dad. Look, he's a troubled young man. He really is.
Yeah,
and whether Meghan comes, I really don't care. I know I should care. I like the king. I used to know him quite well when I was an MP. You've met him many times.
What's that name I've just seen dropped on the floor?
Yes, and that little suitcase has got a trumpet in it. Yes. Yeah.
There is a change, though. You make that point about liege, etc. The truth about the matter is times have moved. I agree. 100 years ago, if he hadn't turned up, there would have been, or 200 years ago, a serious issue. Right? Today, I buy Jerry's argument, which is there is the dad aspect to it. In a family, you have to show support. I urge everybody, if they want to see a modern-day version of what's going on in the royal family, to read Vanity Fair and what's going on in the Murdochs right now. It is 10 times better than Succession. Every family has this problem. Unfortunately for Meghan, she was brought up under one kind of world. She's really had to fight from where she came from. And actually, she suddenly discovers the royal family, there are a set of rules which are most uncomfortable for most ordinary people. Right. And she starts rebelling against it. And our nation is not used to somebody saying, I don't like this. Making your point that you made there in the monologue, that they have cars and they have wealth and they have fame and they should just shut up. She's not prepared to shut up.
I think she gets a lot of stick unfairly because, as you rightly say, she wasn't born into this. She didn't grow up with this. She didn't know the rules before she married. And
neither did Kate. Neither did Kate. And look at the difference.
Indeed. True. But then Prince William's going to be king. And in a monarchy, what matters is the line of succession. Everything beyond that becomes secondary. That spare was the right title. Yeah. And the problem with the spare is that with every new birth you go further down the list and you become...
Look at Andrew. Look, a perfect
I'd rather
example.
not. I'd rather not. What a waste of
But
space.
also, look at the Duke of Kent and Duke of Gloucester, who week in, week out,
Do the work.
dutifully go
Do
around,
the work.
doing things that don't sound always particularly exciting. Both of them now well beyond retirement age, but carry on with an incredible sense of
Princess
duty.
Anne,
Princess
the
Anne,
hardest working member of it's fantastic.
So tell me this, if you had to bet, if we were having this discussion in 5 years' time, how many times would Meghan have been back in this country? If she won't turn up for the coronation, I don't blame her, to be honest, because there would be boos and the cameras would be on her all the time and every movement of her face would be being analysed by everybody, right? Do you believe that this is actually possibly the last time that Meghan will come to the UK?
I agree, but I think what hurts her most, she's an American. She probably worships South Park. She has been parodied on South Park. And to her, that is a terrible stab to the heart.
I wish I knew what South Park was. If I knew, I might be sympathetic.
It's an animation.
A cartoon.
And it's an amusing
like Tom and
animation.
Jerry, that sort of thing. Not right, okay, I quite like Tom and Jerry. But I think that's a fair point. She may decide not to come back. But what you're saying is really interesting. You're saying actually she's done a favour to the king by not coming back, because actually that would have been a terrible distraction if all people had done was looked at every time she blew her nose.
How she held Harry's hand when they were there, and where were they seated, and where this will all happen anyway. 10 times. Where is Kate? Where is Meghan? What are they wearing? The whole thing would have been, and Charles himself would be a completely side story to this event. So it's a very, very good thing.
It's going to be a bit like that with Harry. But is Stormy Daniels coming? That's what we all want to know. That's what Sun readers want to know.
Talking to her Kelvin. Oh, God. Let me start saying that's an assault. We'll have terrible problems. You can't repeat that from last time. I don't think we'll be having any storms over the coronation.
Oh, good.
It rained at the last coronation, and that was quite enough storms for a coronation. But I'm really interested by the idea that actually this is good news for the royal family. It's a good solution. It'll be interesting to see whether he does, with Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, does do formal homage to the king. I think the picture of that would be a wonderful symbolic picture, and is what the coronation in truth is about.
Yes, but the public didn't see it like that. Look, if you're registered as son, you run it as a dad. This is dad and son. There's been a reconciliation. The Liege stuff is wonderful history and wonderful pageantry, and I love it. It's a dad and son story.
All dads and sons want to have a coming together, even although there may have been difficulties. And I'm sure that when Charles is saying, you know, I still love my son and everything, Harry has probably got other issues that are coming up. Somebody said to me, just before it came on air, that in fact he's due back in court in his battle with
the Mail on Sunday?
The Mail. A couple of days later, so it could be all kind of dovetail, but I don't know if that's kosher.
Well, that's another more complicated issue, because I think that if you are in public life, your right to privacy is something that you've abdicated. I think the idea that you can have all the advantages of being in public life and then say, well, I don't like this being in the papers, is absurd. And Parliament never legislated for it. It's all judge-made law through the Human Rights Act.
Well, the truth about the matter is that privacy turns out to be a very strong suit among the young as well. It's a complete change. In my time, it was literally open season. The more famous you were, the bigger the story. And it's true. It's true. So you get done for speeding. What? Did you see that?
I got done for speeding.
Sting
is in your paper. It was the next day.
Well, it must have been a mistake, because we were only carrying stories about famous people.
Oh, shut up, Kelvin.
But nevertheless, so the privacy thing is massively strong. So you end up with bizarre cases where a woman, a Premiership footballer, married and etc., right, misleads some lady into believing that he's single, that they sleep together, all the rest of it, right? So a paper like The Sun has that story. The Premiership footballer goes to court and gets that story banned on the basis that he has 2 children and that they would suffer in the playground because of this story. So this woman who feels totally destroyed by she thought it was love's young dream, right, has no chance of getting her story out because and he uses the children in that way. It's a fantastic thing, and this is a side effect of the old judges wanting to be enormously liberal about people's private lives.